There's a reason you clicked on this video right now. Not 5 minutes from now. Not more. Because deep inside something has been feeling off. You've been smiling in front of people while silently carrying pressure nobody understands. You've been asking questions in your mind that you never say out loud. And lately, it feels like life has been trying to get your attention in ways you can't explain. That's not coincidence. Sometimes God doesn't whisper through comfort. Sometimes He interrupts your routine because your spirit has been ignoring what your heart already knows. And today, this message may be the interruption you are meant to hear before it's too late. So before you skip this video, before you tell yourself, I'll watch it later, listen carefully, because this message could change the direction of your life in ways you never expected. Lately, you've been noticing things that don't make sense, small moments, strange feelings, delays you didn't plan for, conversations that hit too deep, nights where your mind refuses to rest. You keep trying to move forward, but something inside you keeps pulling your attention back to what you've been avoiding. And the truth is, not every warning sign in life arrives with chaos. Some arrive quietly. Some arrive as discomfort. Some arrive as a feeling you can't explain no matter how hard you try. Most people ignore those moments because they're distracted. They tell themselves they're overthinking. They bury the feeling under entertainment, noise, work, or constant scrolling. But there are seasons in life where God allows pressure to enter your routine because He's trying to wake you up before something breaks completely. And when you keep delaying the conversation your spirit needs to have, the signs become harder to ignore. Have you noticed how certain doors suddenly closed even when you did everything right? Have you noticed how some relationships started changing without warning? How your peace disappears the moment you enter certain environments? That's not weakness. That's awareness. Your spirit can recognize danger before your mind fully understands it. And sometimes God removes your comfort because comfort was slowly destroying your purpose. There are people listening to this right now who have been asking God for clarity while ignoring the pattern standing directly in front of them. You've been praying for direction, but every sign around you has already been telling you to slow down. Rethink your choices and pay attention to what's happening inside your soul. Because when your inner peace starts collapsing, it's usually a signal that something deeper needs your attention. You can only silence your conscience for so long before it starts speaking louder through your emotions, your stress, your exhaustion, and your confusion. That constant heaviness you feel isn't always caused by life. Sometimes it's the result of carrying things you were never meant to hold. Sometimes. Ease is the result of pretending to be strong while spiritually drained. And sometimes God allows you to reach emotional exhaustion because it's the only moment where you finally become willing to listen. The dangerous thing about warning signs is that they rarely look dramatic in the beginning. They start small. A loss of peace, a loss of motivation, a growing emptiness even after achieving things you thought would make you happy. You start realizing that distractions don't satisfy you anymore. Temporary pleasures stop working. You laugh with people while secretly feeling disconnected from everything around you. That's the moment many people panic because they don't understand what's happening to them. But what if this discomfort isn't punishment? What if it's redirection? God often speaks through disruption before destruction ever arrives. He will allow discomfort to enter your life because discomfort forces reflection. And reflection reveals truths that distraction was hiding. The problem is most people wait until they completely fall apart before they finally change direction. They wait until the relationship dies, until the opportunity disappears, until anxiety consumes them, until life becomes unbearable. But wisdom recognizes warning signs early. Wisdom pays attention before consequences become permanent. Right now, you may feel like you're stuck in a season where nothing makes sense, but maybe this season isn't here to destroy you. Maybe it's here to expose what can no longer continue in your life. Some habits cannot follow you into your next chapter. Some mindsets cannot survive where God is trying to take you. Some people cannot go with you where your purpose is leading. And deep down, you already know that. That uneasy feeling you keep ignoring may actually be the mercy of God trying to protect you from a future your current decisions are creating. Because God doesn't always shout. Sometimes He warns through silence, through delays, RS, through restlessness, through moments that force you to stop and ask yourself, what am I becoming? And maybe that's the real reason you're here listening to this now. Not by accident, not randomly. But because your spirit recognized something your mind was still trying to deny. The signs have been there. The pressure's been building. And this may be the moment where you finally stop running from the conversation God has been trying to have with you all along. There comes a moment in life when you can feel your spirit fighting to wake up while your habits are trying to keep you asleep. That moment is uncomfortable because awakening changes everything. It changes the way you see people. It changes the way you respond to pressure. It changes what you tolerate, what you chase, and what you secretly know is no longer healthy for your soul. And the reason many people resist spiritual awakening is because it forces them to confront truths they spent years avoiding. You may have known. Tice recently that things which once distracted you no longer satisfy you the same way. The conversations feel empty. The entertainment feels temporary. The constant noise around you feels exhausting instead of exciting. That's not random. When God begins pulling someone into a deeper level of awareness, the first thing that often disappears is false fulfillment. Suddenly, the things that once kept you numb stop working. And that can feel terrifying if you don't understand what's happening. Most people think awakening is supposed to feel peaceful at first, but often it begins with confusion. It begins with emotional pressure. It begins with restlessness. Because before God can elevate your life, He has to break the illusions that kept you spiritually asleep. And illusions are comfortable. Illusions tell you that success without peace is normal. Illusions tell you that hiding your pain is strength. Illusions convince you to keep chasing validation from people who were never assigned to define your worth. But eventually your spirit gets tired of pretending. That's why you've been feeling pulled in different directions lately. Part of you wants to stay comfortable because comfort is familiar. But another part of you knows you cannot continue living disconnected from your purpose. You cannot keep ignoring the emptiness. You cannot keep silencing the inner voice telling you that something in your life needs to change immediately. A spiritual awakening often starts when God allows you to see the reality behind the mask. You begin noticing how certain people drain your energy. You recognize how fear has been controlling your decisions. You realize how much time you wasted trying to fit into environments that were slowly killing your peace. And once your eyes open to those truths, it becomes impossible to fully return to the person you used to be. This is why awakening feels lonely for many people. Not because God abandoned them, but because growth separates you from environments that no longer align with who you're becoming. People may stop understanding you. Some may even criticize the changes happening inside you. They'll say you've changed because you no longer tolerate what once destroyed your peace. But growth requires separation. Every new level demands that something old can no longer stay attached to you. And maybe that's the season you're in right now. A season where God is trying to pull you away from survival mode and into awareness. Because you were not created just to wake up, struggle, distract yourself, and repeat the same cycle forever. You were created with purpose. But purpose cannot grow inside constant spiritual numbness. Many people wait for a miracle while ignoring the awakening happening inside them. They ask God to change their circumstances without realizing God is first trying to change their mindset. Because the greatest transformation often begins internally before anything external changes. And once your spirit whack, ease up, you begin seeing life differently. You stop settling for temporary peace. You stop allowing fear to make every decision for you. You stop depending on people to fill spaces only God can heal. That doesn't mean the process becomes easy. Awakening requires honesty. It requires you to confront the habits, excuses, and emotional wounds that have been controlling your life behind the scenes. And that process can feel painful because healing exposes what pretending used to hide. But pain is sometimes the evidence that transformation is finally happening. Right now, your discomfort may actually be a sign that your spirit is refusing to stay asleep any longer. That pressure you feel may not be punishment. It may be preparation. God may be allowing you to feel dissatisfied with your current life because your soul was created for something deeper than distraction and survival. And if you ignore this moment, life will continue repeating the same lessons until you finally listen. Because awakening delayed often becomes suffering extended. But when you respond to the call God is placing on your heart, everything begins to shift. Your vision becomes clearer. Your decisions become wiser. Your peace becomes stronger. And for the first time in a long time, you stop living on autopilot and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. Some of the hardest battles you will ever fight are the ones nobody else can see. The silent wars happening in your mind. The pressure you carry behind your smile. The exhaustion you hide because you become so used to pretending that everything is fine. And the dangerous part about hidden emotional battles is that people often overlook them until the damage becomes impossible to ignore. There are people listening right now who feel emotionally drained every single day, yet they continue functioning like nothing is wrong. They wake up tired, go through routines mechanically, laugh when expected, respond politely, and carry out responsibilities. Abilities while secretly feeling like they are falling apart inside. That kind of emotional weight changes you slowly. It steals your peace little by little until even simple moments begin feeling heavy. The truth is, not every struggle looks dramatic from the outside. Some people are drowning silently while appearing completely normal to everyone around them. And because the world rewards performance more than honesty, many people become experts at hiding pain instead of healing it. They convince themselves they just need to stay busy, stay distracted, stay productive. But unhealed emotions don't disappear because you ignore them. They wait, they build. And eventually they begin affecting every area of your life. You may have noticed yourself becoming more irritable lately, more distant, more emotionally numb. Things that once excited you no longer move you the same way. Conversations feel exhausting. Motivation disappears quickly. And sometimes you don't even know why you feel overwhelmed. Overwhelmed because the pressure has been building for so long that stress became your normal state. That's what hidden emotional battles do. They slowly convince you that survival is the same thing as living. But God never intended for you to spend your entire life emotionally trapped while pretending to be okay. Sometimes the reason He interrupts your routine is because he sees the damage happening beneath the surface long before anyone else does. He sees the anxiety you hide. He sees the fear you never talk about. He sees the memories that still affect you even though you tell people you moved on. And he knows that if you continue suppressing everything, eventually your spirit will become exhausted. Many people are carrying emotional wounds they never properly processed. Betrayal, rejection, failure, disappointment. Moments that change them deeply even if nobody else noticed. Over time, those experiences create emotional walls. You stop trusting easy. You stop expressing honestly. You become guarded because part of you fears being hurt again. And while those walls may protect you temporarily, they also prevent healing from fully entering your life. What makes emotional battles even harder is that they often create isolation. You feel misunderstood. You feel disconnected from people around you. Sometimes you even pull away from those trying to help because you don't know how to explain the heaviness you're carrying. And eventually, silence becomes your hiding place. But silence can become dangerous when it turns into emotional imprisonment. There are moments when God allows emotional discomfort to surface because He doesn't want you living trapped behind a version of yourself built entirely on survival. He wants honesty from you, not performance. He wants healing, not just endurance. And healing begins the moment you stop pretending that your soul isn't tired. A lot of people keep asking God for external breakthroughs while ignoring the internal. Hell damage controlling their lives. But internal pain affects everything. It affects your decisions, your relationships, your confidence, your peace, and even your ability to recognize opportunities standing in front of you. When your emotions remain wounded for too long, fear begins speaking louder than faith. That's why this moment matters. Because maybe God is trying to show you that your hidden emotional battle is not something to keep burying. Maybe He's showing you that your exhaustion is a signal, not a weakness. A signal that something inside you needs attention, healing, and truth. And the beautiful thing about God is that He doesn't wait for you to have perfect words before He understands your pain. Sometimes the prayers that change your life are the quiet moments where you finally admit, I'm struggling. Because honesty opens doors that pretending never will. You don't have to carry every burden alone forever. You don't have to keep performing strength while breaking into. Nally, and maybe the reason this message found you today is because God knew you were reaching a point where your hidden pain could no longer stay hidden. This is not the season to ignore your emotional condition. This is the season to confront it before it controls your future. Because what stays buried emotionally eventually appears in every other area of life. And God is trying to heal you before the weight you carry becomes heavier than your ability to keep pretending. Fear has a quiet way of controlling people without them even realizing it. It doesn't always appear as panic or obvious weakness. Sometimes fear looks like hesitation. Sometimes it looks like overthinking every decision until opportunities disappear. Sometimes it looks like staying in unhealthy situations because the unknown feels more dangerous than the pain you already understand. And over time, fear can become so normal that you start building your entire life around avoiding discomfort instead of pursuing purpose. See, there are people listening right now who have spent years waiting for the perfect moment to move forward, the perfect timing, the perfect confidence, the perfect guarantee that nothing will go wrong. But fear always demands certainty before action, while faith requires movement before certainty appears. That's why fear keeps so many people trapped. It convinces them to delay what God is calling them to do until they feel fully ready. And most never realize that readiness often comes after obedience, not before it. You may already know what God has been placing on your heart. Deep down, you know there's something you need to confront, a decision you've been avoiding, a change you know must happen. But every time you think about moving forward, fear immediately starts speaking louder than faith. It reminds you of past failures. It shows you worst-case scenarios. It convinces you that you're not strong enough, talented enough, prepared enough, or worthy enough. And if you listen to fear long enough, eventually you begin doubting everything about yourself. That's exactly how fear works. It magnifies uncertainty while shrinking your confidence. It keeps your focus locked on what could go wrong instead of what God could do through your obedience. Fear wants you frozen because a frozen person never grows. A frozen person never changes. A frozen person stays stuck inside cycles they secretly hate but are too afraid to leave behind. But faith changes your perspective completely. Faith doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist. It means believing that God is greater than the problem standing in front of you. It means trusting that even when the path feels unclear, you are not walking alone. And that kind of trust becomes powerful because it allows you to move forward despite uncertainty. Many people misunderstand faith. They think faith means never feeling fear. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move anyway, even when your hands are ache, even when your mind doubts, even when you cannot see the full outcome yet. Faith says, I may not understand everything right now, but I refuse to let fear decide my future. There are moments when God intentionally places you in situations that stretch your trust because comfort never produces transformation. If everything always felt safe and predictable, you would never discover the strength God placed inside you. Some of the greatest breakthroughs happen after moments where people finally stop allowing fear to control every decision they make. Think about how many opportunities fear has already stolen from people. Relationships they never pursued, dreams they never started, healing they never accepted, conversations they were too afraid to have, entire futures delayed because fear convinced them that staying stuck was safer than risking change. And the tragedy is that fear rarely announces itself clearly. It disguises itself as logic, caution, or waiting for the right. But if you keep waiting for fear to disappear completely before taking action, you may spend your entire life standing still. That's why this message matters today, because God may be calling you to stop consulting fear before every decision. Fear has kept you emotionally exhausted long enough. Fear has made you question your value long enough. Fear has convinced you that your past defines your future long enough. And now God is asking you to trust Him more than you trust the voice of doubt inside your head. The moment faith becomes stronger than fear, your life begins changing in ways you never expected. You stop needing constant approval from people. You stop letting failure define your identity. You stop shrinking yourself to fit environments where you were never meant to stay. And even though challenges still exist, they no longer control your peace the same way. Because faith reminds you of something fear wants you to forget. God did not bring you this far just to abandon you. You are in the middle of your journey. The battles you survived already proved there's strength inside you that you haven't fully recognized. And maybe this is your moment to finally stop delaying what fear has been holding hostage. Maybe this is the season where you stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if God is trying to lead me somewhere greater than I imagined? Because the life waiting on the other side of fear may be the very life you've been praying for all along. There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart, but in reality, everything is being repositioned. What feels like confusion is often preparation. What feels like delay is sometimes protection. And what feels like the end may actually be the beginning of the breakthrough you've been praying for all along. The problem is most people give up emotionally right before the shift happens because they mistake pressure for abandonment. You may be in a season right now where you feel exhausted from waiting for answers, waiting for peace, waiting for clarity, waiting for something in your life to finally change. And after carrying emotional pressure for so long, part of you has started wondering if anything will ever get better. That's what prolonged struggle does to people. It slowly drains expectation until survival becomes the only thing they know. But breakthrough moments rarely arrive when everything feels easy. Most breakthroughs are born in seasons where people feel stretched beyond their limits. Because breakthrough is not just about external blessings appearing suddenly. Sometimes the real breakthrough is the transformation happening inside you while you're learning how to trust God under pressure. Think about how much you've already survived. There were moments you thought would completely destroy you, yet somehow you're still standing. There were nights you cried silently, mornings you forced yourself to keep moving, disappointments that shook you. Our confidence in battles nobody else fully understood. Yet despite all of it, something inside you refused to quit completely. That matters more than you realize. Because many times God builds strength in private before He reveals purpose publicly. The process feels painful because growth often requires stretching beyond what feels comfortable. But if God showed you the full picture immediately, you would never develop the endurance, wisdom, and faith needed to sustain the future you're asking for. A breakthrough season often begins quietly. It begins when you stop seeing yourself as defeated. It begins when you stop allowing temporary circumstances to define your identity. It begins when you realize that delays do not mean denial. And most importantly, it begins when your faith becomes stronger than your exhaustion. There are people listening right now who are closer to their breakthrough than they think, but emotionally they've already started giving up. They've become discount. Aged because nothing changes quickly as they expected. They've prayed, waited, struggled, and still feel surrounded by uncertainty. But sometimes the greatest mistake people make is assuming that God is inactive simply because they cannot immediately see results. Some things are shifting beneath the surface long before they become visible. Seeds grow underground before they ever break through the soil. And in the same way, God may be preparing things for your life that you cannot fully see yet. The closed doors, the unexpected delays, the uncomfortable transitions, all of it may be positioning you for something bigger than your current understanding. But breakthrough requires patience because timing matters. There's also something else you need to understand. Breakthroughs often require release. You cannot carry old fear, old bitterness, old habits, and old mindsets into the next chapter. God is preparing for you. Some things must end so new things can begin, and while letting go. Feels painful. Holding on to what no longer belongs in your life creates even greater suffering over time. That's why this season may feel so emotionally intense. God may be removing attachments that were quietly draining your peace. He may be exposing patterns that were limiting your growth. He may be teaching you how to depend on Him instead of depending entirely on external validation, temporary comfort, or the approval of people. And even though you don't fully understand the process right now, your breakthrough may already be closer than you think. Sometimes life becomes hardest right before transformation occurs because pressure reveals what's truly inside you. Pressure exposes whether fear or faith will ultimately control your decisions. This is not the time to quit on yourself. This is not the time to lose hope simply because the process feels longer than expected. The fact that you're still here, still searching, still listening, still fighting internally means something inside you still believe change is possible. And that belief matters because hopeless people stop moving, but faith keeps walking even when the destination is not fully visible yet. One day you will look back at this season and realize it was never designed to destroy you. It was designed to prepare you. The pain taught you discernment. The waiting taught you patience. The pressure taught you dependence on God instead of dependence on temporary things. And the breakthrough you're moving toward will make sense of the battles you're struggling to understand right now. So don't quit in the middle of the process. Don't allow temporary darkness to convince you that your future has disappeared. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs arrive after the moments where people almost gave up completely. And this may be the exact moment where your story begins changing in ways you never expected. Before you leave this video, understand this clearly. You were not meant to hear this message by accident. Something inside you needed this reminder today. In a world full of noise, distractions, pressure, and fear, God is still reaching for your attention because your life has purpose beyond the pain you've been carrying. The battles you faced did not make you worthless. The delays did not mean God forgot you. And the pressure you feel right now is not proof that your future is over. Sometimes the hardest seasons arrive before the biggest transformation. Sometimes God allows discomfort because He refuses to let you stay spiritually asleep while your destiny waits on the other side of obedience. So stop ignoring the warning signs. Stop silencing the voice inside you that knows something must change. Stop allowing fear to decide your future. This is your moment to wake up emotionally, spiritually, and mentally before life forces the lesson through even greater pain. You are stronger than the fear controlling your mind. You are more valuable than the rejection you experience. And why? Or not as lost as you think you are. God can still restore clarity where confusion existed. He can still create peace in places where anxiety once ruled. He can still open doors that look permanently closed. But you must be willing to listen when He calls you. And maybe that call is happening right now through this message, through this exact moment. So take a deep breath and remember this. Your breakdown does not have to become your ending. It can become the turning point that changes everything. The moment you stop running. The moment you finally trust God more than your fear. The moment you choose growth instead of comfort. Because your breakthrough may be closer than you realize. And the version of you waiting on the other side of this season will thank you for not giving up today.